just imagine the bus coming up with its 8 lamps on in the right turn lane, looking in its mirror, see when there's a gap so they can open the door and get the stop arm out for just the traffic behind them. They're not looking at the student or the traffic or anything in front of them, trying to look to the left. That doesn't seem to me to be a good idea or a good situation. However, in the discussion we've had here, I think of that while should use your four-ways in a four-way in a right turn lane, maybe that should be softened a little bit, that you can use four-ways or 8 lanes and bring it back down to the district level where we're still making decisions. I think of Tom Burrows here. He's got a whole different set of situations or bus stop problems than I do. He's in St. Paul or in Minneapolis. You've got one-way roads. That's a whole nother thing that you've got. Where we might have rural, we might have left turn lanes, we might have right turn lanes, we might have all kinds of different things. But all of us here work on trying to make this industry the safest it is. We're the safest, way to get anywhere. And we continue to work on that, but we all have different challenges. So just my idea, just sitting here listening to what you said here, is then maybe soften that language so that it allows districts to make that choice. I know that the board still needs to approve four-way flasher stops. That's what we do. That then puts it out on the board as to where the school board where four-way flashes are. Maybe takes a little liability or responsibility off. With regard to that, what the path of the student, that line, stop arm, looked at, how you can be convicted for a stop arm violation. You can go perpendicular to the bus and not be in violation. You pass the door side, you pass the stop sign, you are. So to hold the driver or somebody responsible for the student walking that path, I think they don't have the control. They cannot stop anybody, and to have them be responsible for that. However, there is another option, and that is there's some language in statute where a responsible student can help students cross the street and then get back to the bus. I don't know if that would be a good idea.
Bus monitor or driver for that, but then you got to somehow render the bus to say. And to kind of follow up, when talking with the particular issue, they did change it to an 8-way stop. And the very first day they did that, somebody did just that, came from the opposite direction, turned left right in front of the bus as the kid was trying to cross, and the mother was irate. Well, they went through your stop arm. No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
So you got that false sense of security under the 8-way light that everybody's going to stop too. So it's still not an ideal solution.
In this situation, flips out, they're getting off the road, making a stop, and then you get out. So I just think the whole idea is if we can keep it at our level and not have some legislative thing that who knows what the ramifications are for all of us.
The other problem is if this is a 4-lane road and you try to do an 8-way, you're going to have everybody blowing your 8-way.
And it is a 4-lane. The point that, again, we made it generic.
Oh, okay. But it's kind of like, how can you do an 8-way on a roadway like that? It'd be hard. So I think that you do need flexibility, and I think that maybe the answer is to go into that cul-de-sac somehow, or to change the stop somehow. I mean, to keep it simple, because it's already so complicated.
But ultimately, we want to come up with the safest solution for the child and the other kids on the bus too, for that matter. The bus is going to be at risk for getting hit by somebody else. So that's ultimately what we need to consider. But I think the senator is pretty inclined to changing it, and partially rightly so. It should probably be more addressed in statute versus rule, because we're talking about the procedure for loading and unloading. And you said the 8-way lights, you know, initially when the family was contacting me about it, you know, they're saying, nope, it says in statute. Like, well, we're not talking about statute, we're talking about rule, which is adopted by statute. So a lot of people aren't really aware where to look for that type of procedure either. So we wanted to bring it to the discussion of the stakeholders group for sure. Tom or Shelley, did you have anything else to add on that? Touch on?
I think it would be of value for you to explain how far back the family lives down that cul-de-sac, and it is just 2 children. So it is this
right.
very unique situation that where on the front of the diagram where it says path to student,
yep.
that road going past the term path to student, what do you think, that's 2,000 yards back there to the household, and into a cul-de-sac?
Probably at least half a mile or more.
Yeah, and it's a small cul-de-sac with a couple of city parks and a maintenance facility for the city.
Yep, and they don't plow the city park parking lots in the wintertime. And you know, most of the year, or majority of the year, you could come up with another solution, but we want a solution for all year without having to worry about weather. And then in the cul-de-sac, you know, you all, if you have them, I'm sure avoid them because of cars parking there, which wouldn't probably have cars parked in this one, but they pile snow in the middle and just trying to get a 40-foot bus turned around in a cul-de-sac. According to the senator, you could turn a semi around with this cul-de-sac, which they probably could turn sharper than that school bus does. But there's various factors. Again, for the survey purposes, we want to kind of make it generic and just find out how you do right turn lane stops without getting a lot of variables into it. But then all that stuff does come into play when you're selecting your stop locations and figuring out the safest way to do it. So, thanks. So, all right. Other updates from us. Many of you were at the summer conference for Train the Trainer. You got to meet Sergeant Kelly Johnson. Where'd he go?
He dealing with that issue that happened here.
Oh, okay. I was going to introduce him to the rest of the group, but he's here today. He's getting up to speed on there. He's been going around to his region doing the annual school bus inspections. We're getting him through the training for the truck side of things. He's been at the conferences, making a lot of contacts. He's done a lot of outreach for this fall startup meeting. So, along with the rest of the tech sergeants and myself, we've been around doing a lot of those, and we enjoy getting out to meet all your drivers. And just personally, I'd like to thank them for what they do and express the appreciation I have for that. And I should mention that it's School Bus Safety Week right off the bat, and thank you for what you do to contribute to that and the safety of the students. And we're looking to get some
Extra posters if you need.
thank you, great. Press release out there. Trying to get immediate contact with Naomi's family to see if they want to talk to her about the national champion poster contest, winner, things like that. So, for some of the legislative updates that we were going to pursue, or they've approved 4 of my requests, but not what I consider to be one of the more critical requests was updating the design standards to the 2015 national specifications that we adopted down in Iowa this year. And then some of the other things we're going to do with that, just clean up some of the, Minnesota requires a stronger battery on your Type A buses because of cold cranking amps. Well, the national specs covers it. We can take that out of there. The thermal pane behind the entrance door isn't necessarily a benefit anymore because of the high back seats. We were going to strike that. Apparently, that was too controversial for the state, so they said that can wait till next year because it's a bonding year. They want to keep it quick. So, it'd be nice if we could get that updated prior to 2017 because then it basically won't take effect until August. And one of the things, the drawbacks for not doing it is the microbird doesn't meet the 2010 specifications because it requires a 30-gallon fuel tank, and the microbird comes with 26 or 25-gallon tank. So I can issue a variance for that, but that's only good for 18 months. So the drawback to issuing a variance is you can't get it passed or enacted before that 18 months is up, and then we have buses out there that's got to come back off. So it'd be nice to get that updated. updated and adopted sooner than that, so, throw that out there. Otherwise, Dwayne, do you have any other updates from how things are going for us?
It's been very quiet there's been a few school bus crashes, nothing really serious. So, I'd say life is good.
We had a diabetic driver incident this morning, driving a school bus again. The blood sugar got very low. I haven't seen any video, but it sounds very similar to the Iowa incident from last year, so we'll be following up on that. You know, things are going with that. And everybody's safe and nobody's hurt with that. They got stopped finally and under control. But Chad, anything from the south? I believe you yesterday, today I'm a no.
Brian, I've been doing these drug and alcohol reviews for school districts and contractors. And for school districts, pay attention to your drug and alcohol testing, drug and alcohol policy that you have adopted. Most schools are adopting the school board's standard policy, which meets the requirements. But in that policy, there's about 2 lines that says the school district shall designate a person who is responsible for asking questions or is a point of contact. I've just been through 5 school districts that all adopted the 2010 policy, and not one has addressed that specific little item. So whether it be the transportation directors not paying attention to the policy that they've adopted, but please review your policies, and if you need to make a memo to the policy that says Mr. Transportation Director or Mrs. Transportation Director is the person who asks questions concerning the policy, and when the schools or the contractors drug and alcohol tests or something, please do that, because it's a violation that goes on to the federal database on your record.
Any questions for us at this point on anything we've covered? Here's
And
Kelly.
Keller.
Kelly Johnson.
What?
Anybody that hasn't met you.
Oh.
We're glad he's here.
I can't wait to meet him.
All right. Mike, do you have anything from HSEM you want to cover?
We've updated our curriculum, so we have some more training that we offer. And I just wanted to mention, there's been a few lately school visits that have been initiated by transportation supervisors. Cindy, I don't know what you want to mention what happened at your school?
Our school district was here, I mentioned, had Mike come out and do it, and they're, oh gosh, you want to make all your job, I finally got him, just have him come listen, and it created a very nice, relationship, and our superintendent was very surprised and very appreciative of what the information that they brought to us. So I really thank him, and I'm glad that it's going the way it did, because it's very nice.
So it doesn't have to start with superintendents, it can start with anybody.
How many of you in here from districts have had HSEM come in? Worthwhile?
And then the conversation initiated with just looking at the high school, but they're hoping to pass the referendum, correct? So then today we're going back there and working with the architect to look at some security options for the plans. So it could, one thing could lead to multiple things.
Yeah, it was just some really little things that we could do, inexpensive things that we weren't doing it. So it was very resourceful, very, very resourceful.
It's not a regulatory issue, and that's where a lot of them are going to get, for the most part, concerned that we have to do this, but then there's other ones that want it to be regulatory. We're not saying you have to do this, but we want you to tell us we have to do it, but we can't tell you you have to do it. Because they want to change it. So there's things they got to work through internally. Julie, from NDE, any comments?
Just a reminder to get your data verification reports in. They'll be updated this week on the MDE website. And yesterday was the final MARS data submission, so all of the MARS updates should be current. So that'll come out tomorrow or the next day. And then I had a conversation earlier this week with Leah at the Minnesota Department of Transportation regarding the Highway 169 project coming up for next year. I do have a list of about 16 people that she sent to me, but if you'd like to be included on this communications list as the project progresses, if you just want to send me an email, let me know that you want to be on there, that would be great. And unless you want to hear about my car being stolen this summer, I don't have anything else.
All right. Tom or Brad, do you guys have anything to add for legislative updates for your associations?
I think just quickly, the bill on the bus trespass got hung up on the House floor. Not just ran out of time, but it passed the Senate. It has to go back to the Criminal Justice Committee in the House, and where there was no opposition, so I'm expecting that to proceed to the floor again, and hopefully we can get it to a vote. There was no votes against it in the Senate, and we're also, I guess, the MAPT Legislative Committee will be meeting shortly, and we'll be cooking up some things. It's a tax cut year. We want to look at some things about excise tax on fuel and those types of things, but the problem with that is that that's not in the tax committee as much as it is in the transportation committee, and so cutting those taxes is, could be part of the overall transportation funding issue, and so it might be a little bit steeper climb than we initially anticipated. So we're going to talk about those things and a few other things as we move forward, but again, not doing that yet. Session starts March 8th, and my guess is they'll go till sometime in May.
Just a couple of things. As most of you imagine, there are 3,000 or 4,000 bills introduced every year, and some of them sort of slip through the cracks. Fortunately, the two that I found that were unaware to me, and I think unaware to Brad, were one that was introduced in late March that would require, and was just introduced in the House, require 3-point lap belts in all school buses. And which I think Shelley talked to International Buses, I talked to Thomas Bus Company, and they said it'd be anywhere from $10,000 to $11,000 for a new bus with seatbelts. So I mean, it's been sort of an every 3 or 4 year issue about whether seatbelts should be on buses. So Representative Freiberg is considering seatbelts. And then there was another one about unemployment for bus drivers. Currently, it's really convoluted who can and cannot get unemployment insurance in regards to when and where you work for a school. The main standard seems that if you've been unemployed at a school district for 2 consecutive school district years, you can get unemployment. And there's other criteria where you can and can't. But there's one specific paragraph that includes food service workers can get unemployment. And forgetting who introduced it, but it was the last week of session. It was Representative Deb Hillstrom and Senator, I can't remember, to include bus drivers to be available to gain unemployment insurance, assuming during the summer between school years. I imagine that's a very pricey impact on both school districts and on contractors. As I said, it was introduced very late in the session. It was the last week of May. So I think those are 2 things that people will start to think about for next year.
Thanks. And we'll move on to Yes.
Good morning, everyone. It's October. It's been a heck of a summer, and I'm sure a startup for everyone. What I can report about MedCert entry, we do probably about 95% of it at point of contact. So as far as any MedCert entry that has been faxed in, they are current. By current, that means that anything that was faxed yesterday, they're entering today, because it bridges overnight in the fax. So MedCert entry seems to be going well. Had a few issues this fall with some medical waivers, so just to remind you about to fax it to the new fax number that's on the new updated forms. Sometimes I think you have forms in your files from previous, and you pull out that old form with that old fax number on it. So just to remind you that that new fax number is 651-282-5666. 28110. Does anybody want that repeated? If not, just pull up the forms, so.
One more time, Brad.
651-282-2110. Currently, issuing is at 24 days for all offline transactions, which all CDL applications are considered what we call offline transactions. Just a reminder that sometimes there's some confusion on what's real time and what is not real time. If you check a driver's status, you're going to see real-time transactions for commercial learner's permits and for the med-certs. But when it comes to issuing a new license, whether it's a renewal or an upgrade, you will not see those dates change or that class of license change until that card is actually produced by our issuing operators. So that could be 24 days. So as long as your driver has that current application receipt from going in and paying for that school, the class of license with the school bus endorsement, they have the background check is clear and on file, and of course the medical would be up to date. That driver's good to drive with that temporary receipt. That receipt's good for 60 days. Okay. Currently we are getting very, very slammed with applications for the enhanced driver's license. With all the word in the media about Minnesota licenses not being real ID compliant, of course, with the current law that's on the books that prohibits us from participating in real ID. Until that changes, Minnesota cannot really do anything at driver vehicle services with the driver's license. So there's a lot of people out there that are panicking, so to speak, about if they're going to be able to fly in 2016 with the current driver's license. If they have an enhanced driver's license, they can, but what's really ironic is that the majority of the people trying to obtain an enhanced driver's license already have a passport. So, so I think that their desire is they don't want to carry the passport when they fly domestically, is what I'm interpreting there. But so we've had a huge uptick with that.
Well, if you have a passport, you don't need to.
No, and you don't have to worry about the quality of your driver's license either. Correct. Yeah. So.
The enhanced driver's license with the American flag on it, you can drive into Canada and Mexico, correct? You
That's
cannot
what it's
fly,
designed to do.
but you cannot fly.
Correct. It's just domestically you could use that.
Right. Now the passport card, same thing?
You're asking me a question I'm not sure about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, you stumped her tonight.
So if I fly to Mexico.
Who are you? We hate you.
Why are you stumping
Well, I've been stumped a few times.
He's new, isn't he?
On that.
I'm not DHS. I won't answer that.
I want to fly to Mexico in January.
One way?
I'm undercover chrome. I'm going to bring back a '53 Eldorado. With corn stuffed around the back so I don't see what it is. No, so I've got a regular driver's license and a passport. Current.
You're fine. You're fine.
I will. You have to show it.
You're fine. Okay. Let's see, where are we at? Okay, since this past spring, for anybody that has a school bus endorsement and they're due to renew their license this year, we've been sending over the driver's names to the BCA, and we've been running that background check prior to the renewal date. So we already have that on the record. So we kind of went back to that. We had been doing that a couple years ago, and for whatever reason, it ceased, and now we've started that up again. So it's possible some of your drivers might be getting what seems kind of strange, potential denial letter, because there might be something on their criminal background check that seems to be coming out of the blue, but it's happening because it's being done prior to that renewal. So just a heads up on that. As far as road testing this summer, my work crew did a phenomenal job. We've seen a 9% increase in road tests given this summer compared to last summer, and that's for both school bus tests, CDL tests, and Class D tests. So it's a combination of, we did some extended hours in the metro, And a few other locations, we did a little bit of configuring of where we might spend our time as far as traveling and hours in certain exam stations across the state. So that was pretty good work that my crew did there. Just a heads up, there is a new medical certificate form starting December 22nd of this year. It's only available to certified medical examiners. It's a totally different looking form than what's currently used out there. So drivers that get their medical exams prior to December 22nd, it will still be on the old format, and that's fine, it's acceptable. Going forward, it's a new format, and so it's a federal form basically. I have more work to do to look into this, but what this new form is doing is it's paving the way for DVS to accept the medical exam results directly from the medical examiner through the National Registry to the driver's license record. So in other words, there will be no entry having to be done. It will all be sent electronically. Because actually if there's any fraud in the medical program, it's probably in the card. So they're going to limit the issuance of those cards and where they're going to be accessible to. Get the pleasure of having a CDL program compliance review in 2 weeks, starting November 3rd. So I have to prepare for that. I suspect there might be some interesting things happening with the citizenship document requirement. Keep in mind, a lot of the drivers that have had CDLs for many, many years never ever showed any identity documents to get a driver's license. That really only started probably since about 1999, 2000. So we have lots of Minnesota drivers that when they first got their driver's license, whatever name they put down is what name we have in the record. And now we have these drivers coming in and they have a birth certificate that says baby boy Smith or whatever the case may be. Or you have situations where the family broke up at some point. Some other gentleman might have came along with the mother, and then they just kind of assumed a different last name, but when you look at the identity document, that's not the name that they've been going by. So we have these kinds of issues going on. If you have drivers in that situation, we have a variance option for them if they cannot obtain proper documentation of their name. We've also found you can always go and do a court order name change that's a little bit spendy, or you can work to have the birth certificate amended, which is a little bit less expensive. So there are some options out there available for drivers in those situations. Some other feedback from this last fall. There are some drivers that are still submitting, if your drivers have a violation, you're supposed to just inform your employer. You don't have to send that form to DVS. There's nothing we're going to do with it. So you're not required to send that in to us. And I've had a few questions about some of you that are accessing the MVR. It's a little bit different format than what you might have seen previously because all the medical information is embedded into that document now. So it kind of took a few people, they were a little bit shocked about what they were getting when they print those out, if they have access to print your own MVRs. So.
That's the whole record side of it?
Yeah, yeah. Other than that, Kathy's busy training 4 new examiners for CDL training this week. I've hired a new assistant at the Anoka exam station, wonderful. She's wonderful, Kim Wilcox. Great personality, good with people. And I have an opening for a regional in Marshall, and I'm probably looking at 2 regionals retiring within the next 6 to 8 months. So I'm going to have continuous turnover of staff. So other than that, any other questions, I guess, or comments, or concerns, or?
All right, thanks. I think that kind of wraps up the whole report section. Back over to the original agenda. You notice besides the time change, we're trying to have more training discussions or kind of hot topic discussions. Each meeting this year will kind of have a different primary topic that we're going to cover. This one we're going to cover type 3 issues, and then special ed cameras on buses and training. So where do you want to go from here? You want Randy to come up? Or
What's that?
You want Randy to come up next? Or You call it.
We're gonna go ahead and do our, I guess, our traditional way we do the thing. Okay, good morning, everyone. Okay, where would you go? Did you want to quickly talk about the education you handed out? Sure, they have it.
Okay, so everybody should have got, I think you got enough copies. We handed out a sheet of paper. We're asking everybody, if you have questions, put those questions on there, or if you have topics that you'd like us to discuss in the future, put those on there. You can take a few minutes to do that and then pass them in. That would be great. And then we're gonna go through them so that, if somebody does have a question, or you have a hot topic or whatever, we make sure that we try to get to that. All right? And then one more quick thing before we get started. We have a special guest with us today. Carolyn Oaks. Carolyn, will you stand up? Carolyn's retiring after 47 years in the business.
Wow.
So, before you leave today, I do have a cake here. I want your picture with it, but I'd like everybody, be sure to wish her well and enjoy a piece of cake. And, when I started in this business 19 years ago, there were 3 women that, I really looked up to. And it was Janet Dittbrenner, Carolyn Oaks, and it was, Kate Goodwill. So the last of the 3, are retiring, so I wish you luck. Wish her well.
Well, after conferring with my 3 colleagues here, there's a lot of people that we don't know, and one of these days, we should do a quick introduction of who you are and where you're from. So, my name's Sean. I'm from Osceola Area Schools. I'm the chair of the State School Bus Safety Committee.
I'm Cindy McKay, I'm secretary for Frisbee Public School.
I'm Kevin Stormer from Bloomington. I'm the vice chair.
Yeah, just keep going, right?
Dwayne Barnrock, Accident Transportation Bureau.
Paul Director of Social Bus Sales. Brett Chinga, K-12 Transportation.
Shelley Jonas, Minnesota School Bus Operators Association.
Steve Paulson, North Hennepin School.
Dave Moore, Lane Transportation.
Derek McGee, Hopkins Public Schools, and currently the PT president.
Georgia Foster,
Bob Capitola, Bloomington School.
Bob Wolf, Awesome Connection.
Tom Driscoll, Minneapolis and Suburban.
Nick Clacius, Cleveland Public Schools.
Troy Schreifels, Osceola Area Schools.
Kevin Busick, General Manager for American Transportation, Mountie.
Julie Delisle, Department of Education.
Mike Christensen, Department of Public Safety, Minnesota Schools Safety Center.
Heather Jensen, Boys School.
Guy Smith, St. Paul Schools.
Kelly Stanham, Robbinsdale Schools. Linda Andrews, Walker Heights Schools. Doris Chubb, R&D Transportation.
Arlen Riding, K-12 Transportation.
Bob Myers, Oklahoma School Service and Practice, Armstrong Valley Schools.
Kathy Lane, Transportation Director for Oklahoma School Service.
Jeff Youngworth, Twin City Transportation.
Rick Jungle, R&D Transportation.
Kayla Hayden, Western Record Schools. Amy Stevens, District 287. Maureen Johnson, District 27.
Transportation.
Both more stuff, just quality care certification.
Gene Emanuel, MTN.
Nicole Fairlane, Jasper Field Schools.
Kelly Weber, MTI.
Randy Buzek, Bloomington.
Tom Keller, Minnesota School Bus Operators Association.
Joe Dockenbach, State Patrol.
Deb Carlson, DPS.
Ray Kroll, MVPT.
John Thomas, Eastern Public High Schools. Kelly Johnson, State Patrol.
Brent Johnson, Forest Lake Area Schools. Bill Martin, Bloomington.
Ruth Roberts, First Music Minnetonka.
Leonard Lewis, Minnehaha Transportation, Roseville.
Karen Erickson, Park Allen Transportation.
Jason Schoolmeisters, North Branch Schools.
Carolyn Oaks, Minneapolis Public Schools.
This is a fabulous group of us, but nice to see all of you. We're trying to change it up. We are gonna do the paper vote this month, so I wanna make sure everybody, signs in on the sheet as they go around. starting, the next meeting, we're gonna have an iPad there, and you're just gonna check your name off and check your email. If you didn't get the email for this meeting, either contact me or, we will give you, we have a new website that all our documents will be located on. So you'll be able to go and get the documents there, and you can always send us an information, and we'll get the right email out there. I have a list of emails, but a lot of them get bounced back at me, and it'll take me forever to get them all cleaned up if you don't tell me what the right one is. Just appreciate that.
All right. Thanks, it is nice to see so many people out here. Usually a lot more quiet. We're going to get started with Randy from North Mount Apple Valley talking about the driver training program. So Randy, we're going to start.
So if everybody want to hand in your sheet that you filled out, or even if it's blank, we'll reuse it for next month. So if it's blank, just
Pass
send
them
them all
down
to
this
the.
way and I'll grab them.
So we'll go through and see if there's something that we need to touch on today. We're always open to options of different topics, so we're trying to change it up and get some more safety, strict conversations going. Are you ready? Let's go.
So as I mentioned, I'm Randy Dudek. I'm the transportation coordinator for District 186 in North Apple Valley. And Ken asked me to Ken asked me to mention to you a little bit about our training program for our Type 3 drivers. Some of you are aware of it. I think you have something kind of similar. And it seems like, if I remember right, it was like 2008 maybe, the Type 3 training laws came into effect, if I'm not mistaken. And this training program we have was kind of set up because when that came out that August, I think it was, and first I panicked and I felt sorry for myself, and then I thought, how are we going to get this all done? Because in our district, I didn't know how many Type 3 drivers we had, like many of us probably didn't, but I knew it was a large number. And when we actually surveyed the district schools, we had like 600 Type 3 drivers. And we had to have done, October or so. Actually, when those people then determined that there's some work to it, a lot of them fell off. We were down around 400, 450. Right now, we probably have about 380 people every year that we certify as a Type 3 driver in our district. So in order to get this done effectively, after we took a step back and said, how can we do this? We tried to develop a program where we can train a lot of people in a short period of time, and then be effective in our training ongoing, so that the staff would not try to script the system and run out and drive anyway. And so we made it a program where they could, after they were certified the first time, they could go online and do a recertification on their own time, even at home if they wanted to, based upon the system we set up. So we put this module together, and then at the time, which Eddie Carroll was in charge of Safe Patrol, Troop of Safety, asked him to come over and not really give us his blessing, but say it seemed to meet the criteria necessary for the training program. So we felt fairly comfortable there. Our training program, of course, always goes upon a driver's license check. There's some classroom training initially, behind the wheel training. We set up an annual certification process, and then we developed a train-the-trainer program in our district. And primarily, many of the trainers that we trained to do this were like driver's education instructors at the high school. And they came in, we trained them on type 3 procedures, and they became trainers in the schools, so that we didn't have our office training everybody. Each of the schools has a representative if they're interested in having type 3 drivers. So they do the training, and then other school staff might be. So the new driver training, when they've never done it before, you do the driver's license check and then review all the requirements for a type 3 certification. So then we take all those requirements off of the State Patrol's website in the school type 3 bus information. So it involves classroom training, and part of the training involves the PowerPoint that the State Patrol has for type 3s, along with the other information that's necessary. There's a pre-trip inspection that we do, and then there's a ride-along or drive-along type training. Usually it's a ride-along, but if there's issues that we need to correct, then it becomes a drive-along where we teach some of the basics. And when the trainer is comfortable, then you become certified as a type 3 driver. We keep a database in our district so that every year we know who has performed the recertification and who hasn't. And if they haven't performed it and come into our office to get a type 3 vehicle, then they're not allowed to drive. So this has been pretty successful for us. Then we've developed a recertification process. This is the one we tried to make kind of streamlined, but cover all the bases, but make it something that they could do on their own time rather than come in because people's schedules are busy. So we put this on our school district website, the staff website, so any of the school staff could go on the website from their classroom, from the home, come in and do it, and all the modules are right there, and they go through them step by step. This information is also on the MAPT website, or at least it used to be in the members section. So so it's on the MAPT website. If anybody wanted to use it, it's available there. It's more of a generic form than in the district's forms are usually. We have the instructions on there of what it takes to be a type 3 driver, to be certified, and what the module is going to be, kind of instructions of what they're going to do as they go through this. One of the pieces that I remember Eddie Carroll questioning was, if they go through this type of training, we never see them again, how do we know that they are driving safely? Or is there a key in there that would say, something triggered us to relook at this person or bring them into the full training again? So on the bottom of this, this is a flow chart that kind of shows the same thing, but on the bottom of this, there are indicators that if they were in an accident with a type 3 vehicle, if they had a moving violation of type 3 vehicle, if we have a citizen complaint about how they're driving that vehicle, then it triggers them back up into this, back to the initial training and certification with the actual trainer. And we don't have it anymore, but if we had drivers that were hired solely for type 3, then we have the drug and alcohol and physical examination requirement. Otherwise, they go through this module. One of them is we developed a training video. It's about 15 minutes long that the type 3 drivers watch. And the basics of that video, it covers all the basics in the bus evaluation pieces on the State Patrol website. how we evaluate Type 3 drivers, so the main topics of this thing are all covered in that video. And that's how we developed it, and what we use as the guideline for it. And then the Type 3 person would go through the PowerPoint. This is linked to the State Patrol's website, PowerPoint, so we cover that. They have a test they take, which asks various questions about Type 3 drivers and driving. And then they sign a form that says that they're certifying to us that they watched this module, that they understand all the rules and requirements of Type 3 driver. They can sign this off electronically or print this out, and then it comes into our office, and then it's reviewed by one of our staff, and then the drivers that is updated on when they're certified as a Type 3 driver. The materials we used, of course, you probably all know the PowerPoints and other information related to Type 3s on the State Patrol's website. This information I just shared with you today is on the MAPT website in the member section, or I have mailed out this to several people, and if you're interested in having a copy of it, I would certainly be willing to do that. So that's a brief rundown of our program. Any questions?
Randy, I can't recall, I thought it was every other year we can do the video versus doing the ride-along, or is it just doing the video and the test and then they're good for the next year? Can you help clarify that?
My belief is it's every year we can update it with the recertification piece. We only do the ride-along evaluation type thing if there's a trigger in the system that says we notice something.
Okay.
Yes?
For a Type 3 driver, one of the Type 3 driver driving school, how many minimum hours do you put on driving? Is there a minimum?
How many what?
Minimum hours?
There's no minimum in the rule that I'm aware of, so we just make sure the initial training, when we do it, takes about 2 to 3 hours, more in the 2 to 3 range. Then I would say after that, this is probably about a 30-minute.
I just got comparing it.
Yeah.
You explain your vehicle setup, how many vehicles, what kind they are. Do you have some of those Type A buses that are seated for 10?
We have in our district, we have, in our transportation department, we have 12 Type 3 vehicles. About 8 of those are a Type A bus that's made into a Type 3 vehicle or ordered as a Type 3 vehicle. Seats 9 passengers. Sometimes they have caged out there in the back for golf clubs and things like that. But they're not school bus yellow. They don't have any stop arm equipment on them. And then we also have some regular vans. And then each of the high schools have like a caravan type vehicle. So all in all, if I remember correctly, we have about 19 Type 3 vehicles in the district.
Who pays for the van at the high school? The transportation department cost?
No, the high schools buy their own vans and they store them at the high school. And then we have our own that other staff use throughout the district that we pay for and we keep at our school, at our department. Yes?
The relationship you have with the driver ed teachers, do they come under your purview when they're doing that? Is there a compensation through you? Is that a fundable within the state framework for transportation costs?
I'm not sure that it's fundable, but they do come to us. We train them in on the Type 3 piece, and we communicate, information with who their trainees are and who has passed the certification. But we don't pay for them like the high school does. Just they cover those costs when we need them.
Yeah, just
the recertification process that you guys are doing, I guess I'm a little bit lost on that. I mean, we do the behind the wheel evaluation for our drivers annually. Every year we do the pre-trip and can't remember the documentation of the state patrol form, you know, that we do that annually for every driver. So is there a regulation that allows us not to have to, I mean, the recertification process, there's a difference in the recertification process for Tech 3 than there is,
You need to make sure the drivers are trained and can demonstrate that they understand the requirements on that, competencies on the kind of good evaluation. Nothing that says it has to be that kind of deal. Should something happen, you have to explain how do you know that they're not good to do it, you know, actually watch them. They watch them on the initial, and if there's not a demonstrated issue where they need to be checked, I think that's kind of where we goes with that matrix or whatever. We've got a trigger that says, we need to look at you again, because you're not doing it properly. But it does just say they need to be trained, to demonstrate. So it doesn't say how you do that.
okay, like the state patrol form, the pre-trip one, and also then the documentation you have.
And the wheel form, yeah.
And the wheel form.
Cover every one of those items, whether you do it with Matchbox cars, whiteboard, they just go ahead, you know, Randy shows a video of this is how you set up to make a proper right turn, and, you know, for enforcement, if you can cover all those points, and are comfortable, it's your system.
Now, the behind the wheel form actually was changed years ago, you know, regarding it was more of an evaluation form.
Yep.
To each, you know, at the bottom it states that each driver must be able to demonstrate that they can do these. I guess it's not that they can't, it used to be pass, fail, that kind of stuff, and now all they have to be able to demonstrate they can do them all.
Because if you fail, why would you let them go out there and
Right.
and demonstrate that they can do it?
So you're just saying that they have to demonstrate it once, and then 6 years later, they actually don't have to, they've never had to demonstrate it again.
We'll demonstrate that they know how to do it properly.
Yeah.
But if you want to do that through discussion, and you can demonstrate that they know how to do it properly, or they cannot demonstrate that they can do it properly. I know where you're, I like where you're going with it.
We do a lot of training.
Right.
I mean, we do this annually for everybody.
Yep.
And this is actually new to me, that the recertification process, that there is one, actually. We always basically started from afresh, you know, that we redo everybody every year. And also then you have the 3 cycles of documentation. They have to fill out one of those, you know, test each year also. So I'm just, this is new to me, so I'm just, I thought that it needs to be documented that they had to be behind the wheel each time.
Is there more on that, Elaine? That was just one I found on that.
That was this week by your predecessor. Not making any more comments.
Well, it's an option, so, expect, like Randy said, he has 600 drivers to do it.
Yeah.
It'd be awfully time consuming.
That'd be a full-time.
It's a huge expense for us
Right.
to do all these things annually. Like this, and it'd be much easier to do a 15-minute video, and have them fill out.
If you're comfortable with that and cover it, like you said, you need to be able to mark that, that they're demonstrating.
Under the law, under 17102B, C, it says the operator employee has adopted and implemented a policy that provides for annual training and certification of the operator.
Oh, we can't hear.
Chad, can you say that again?
It says under
Hey.
17102, for the exception for type 3 vehicle drivers, under 2BC, says the operator's employer has adopted and implemented a policy that provides for annual training and certification of the operator, and then it lists the 8 competencies, and it goes right down there.
Which is that evaluation sheet that's out there on the State Patrol's website.
So, it lists, safe operation of a type 3 vehicle, understanding student behavior, including issues related to students with disabilities, encouraging orderly conduct of students on the bus, and handling. Basically, it's going to be our appendix D1 that we go through. But there is a difference between occasional use, and your drivers are to and from daily.
That's the question
Oh,
there.
yeah. Maybe we're full-time type 3 drivers. I mean, we're not, a high school driver that goes out and just drives it for, an afternoon every once in a while. But there isn't a difference when it comes to,
There's no
when it comes to
difference in
training, there's no
transportation.
difference.
For training.
Type 3 driver, type 3 driver.
The difference for the hired solely to do it versus the high school teacher or middle school band director is that they're hired solely to drive type 3 school bus. That falls then under the, and correct me if I'm wrong, state patrol guys, but they have to do the drug and alcohol testing and have to have their med cert, as opposed to the high school teacher band director that is driving 2 kids to state competition somewhere. So training is different.
This is just how we do it, and if you do it, a lot of people do it different ways. I was just sharing our program.
Oh, no, that's good news.
So how do you fill out for the state files then? If I was to do it for just our coaches and employees in the school district, do you check that you've done a ride-along to Appendix A? I mean, can you check all that paperwork if they've gone through the tests and everything, and it's legitimate? You know, state files only have to have Appendix A, B, C.
Did you fill out the behind the wheel evaluation for in the file? Because it was covered in the video, we covered each one of those competencies, each one of those items that was covered.
You just have to document
Document
that.
that, demonstrate
How
that
did
it was
you
discussed.
demonstrate?
You still fill it out. And is there a section down at the bottom that say how you did it? Something like that.
I can see where you're coming from, is if you get to a crash with that type 3 and you're on a civil and says, well, how did you do this?
Right.
Did you actually take them out and ride behind? Because it says behind the wheel evaluation, are you truly behind the wheel? You're gonna have to explain that.
Well, I know there's a lot of discussion on type 3, and we'll come back to that in a minute. Brian's got a presentation for us, so we're gonna move on now, hold your questions until later. We're gonna move on now to Amy Stevens with, Intermediate District 287 for presentation on their driver training. Amy, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. Well, actually, I do very similar to what Randy does, so with everything he says in the form. Marina's kind of passing a few, I didn't know where to have this big a group. But she's passing a few forms around that you can kind of pass around that I use. But yes, I follow the state patrol guidelines, of course, and it's important to make sure, you have your same forms. But I make sure, Marina and I make sure we go on to the state patrol site and make sure we give out the updated forms, because they do update those once in a while. So, and as far as the video, I'll show you this in a minute. This is the PowerPoint that I go through. But I do, I think, a little more, basically, the training that I do is the same every year, but the behind the wheel I don't do every year, like Randy was saying. We do that in the beginning, and then we talk about it during the training and everything. But I have, and you'll see on the forms there that I have them sign, I have them, it has exactly what all the expectations, the laws, and the rules are that they need to follow all of those. And I have on there, if they get a ticket while they're driving a Type 3 vehicle, which would be our vans. We have 8 school vans. And the staff that use those they're paraprofessionals, and a few are teachers, and they just drive the vans occasionally. So they don't drive them on a regular basis like some of you that, like R&D and TCT. So they do it occasionally. But we used to have like 40-some vans, and then through the years now, we have, when they've, aged out, we've retired them, and now we use contracted more. But we have 8 vans left, and so they are around for staff meetings if they have to transport kids. So I used to train like 275 drivers. I trained everybody in the district, and now this year we brought it down to 75. So I have 75 that we train. And like Randy showed you, he has the database that has all the names of all the drivers. we have that as well. You know, they have to fill out a new form every year, that they're gonna have their license checked, and I send that to our insurance company. They check them, and then we put the new date on there that it's been checked every year. And then they have to attend the full training every year too. Before I have them go through this training that's in person with me, which that whole thing with me is about 2 hours long, and then if they have to go through behind the wheel, then that's, you know, extra time, added time. But anyway, what I was saying is, so like on that form, if they get a ticket in a type 3 vehicle, or if they disobey any of those policies that they sign that they understand, then they have to do another behind the wheel. Or if there's something that we, you know, something reported that they maybe don't know what they're doing, then we'll do another behind the wheel as well. But what on our website, we have 3 videos that are through the state patrol, but we have a woman that the district contracts to narrate different videos, and so she narrated all the 3 required state patrol videos, and for all 3 of those, it takes them probably 35 minutes to complete. So they do that on their own, and then when they sign that form, they say that they completed and watched those. Then they come to class with me. We go through all those forms. If you can see, does someone have one handy here? Okay. So this is the agenda that I just make, so they know exactly how long it's going to take. It's like 2.5 hours. This is forms that we use internally to document mileage and things. So I just make sure I go through everything. There's a vehicle accident procedure form. I go through that. And I'll page through quick on my PowerPoint too. And then this is what we use for the pre-trip. So different than Randy, I do go over the pre-trip. I bring them out to the van. So Marie helps me. She takes a group, I take a group. And we make them all do the pre-trip like together as a group. So we do that every year. And then on this, you can see there's things that's required through the state patrol that are on here, but then I talked to our lawyers at 287, and they had said that, you know, if you're going to say a driver can't drive anymore because of getting a violation, or they have to be retrained, then you have to have it all in writing. So we have everything in writing, and I actually go through like the room and have everybody kind of read like a couple lines so everybody understands, because I've had, you know, you think they're adults and they can read it themselves. Yeah, but I've had people say, well, I didn't know that, you know, and we go through it every year. So I go, okay, everybody, and I have, you know, each person read a bullet, and we go across, we read all this together, and then I say, is there any questions? Do you understand everything? And then they fill out all this, and this is from the State Patrol site. If you want to pass that around, you can see that. Then we do the student conduct and students with special needs survey, and I do there's 3 cycles, and I do a different cycle every year. And I give them a little time, and then we go through it as a group and talk about it. And then this is the pre-trip that's on the State Patrol, and we go through that and do that. But then in that other packet, I show them our pre-trip so they remember and understand how to fill all that out. But let me just page through this real quick. But I make changes every year to it. This is just going to introduce. But yeah, we go on our website, and I kind of just show them all resources on our website and everything, explain kind of all the policies again. Again, that's just kind of talking about different resources that are on our website. Then that's our vehicle accident procedure form, and I explain to them, you know, that they'd have to fill that out if they're in an accident, or also damage to property, because we have to send that to our insurance company. This is with the blue, this is just our internal thing. And then I think those of you that know me, I used to teach driver's ed for many years, and so I'm very big into defensive driving. So we go over the Smith system and SIFT, that's in the Minnesota manual. I remind them that, if you haven't read the Minnesota manual in 20, 30 years, you should go on the DPS website, review that, and talk about that. I try to change up my slides every year. So anyway, this whole process, we're talking and they're interactive with me. It's probably 45 minutes or so. But I put on new pictures sometimes I take them myself or I get them on the internet. I also get, from Train the Trainer a few years ago when I first started training, I got some things from Jeff at Anoka Hennepin, and Sherry from Holy Angels. They kind of help me out too. So it's good, yeah. So if you need anything, contact me. I can help you. It's good to find out what other people are doing. Let's see, the other site I get, and Jeff talks about that at Train the Trainer, can't think of the name of it right now. Safety, the site, I go to the site, and we'll see it in a minute, I think.
Minnesota Safety Council?
Yes, I go to Minnesota Safety Council, I get some information on there, get updates. I kind of go over different scenarios like this, making sure they're listening 12 to 15 seconds ahead, talk about things. Talk about leave yourself and out, within the system. Talk about how other people see you and how you make sure that others can see you. Things like that. I think I got that from the Safety Council. Here I'll go through this. But yeah, just talking about what they're going to. Then I put in, I used to only show like one video, and now I learned I show about 4 short ones, all about like the zipper merge is kind of a major thing now. I'm going to talk about that. Then about why motor vehicle crashes happen, and there's so many, about alcohol speeding, distracted driving, cell phones, texting. That I got from the Safety Council website, all of this information here.
That's not you driving.
No. And I actually updated that. It was like a flip phone a few years ago. I'll take that picture. But that was on the internet.
So it's just right there. Right there.
So all this is from the Safety Council, so really good resources there. This is from the Safety Council. And then this was on the Safety Council website, National Safety Council, and it just talks about quick that your brain can only do like one thing at a time, and that's why you should be just driving, and it's only about a couple-minute video. But it's kind of just good to keep things moving and change things up. And let me go back to it. This, I love this, and I got that from the Safety Council. When I used to teach driver's ed, I said, I wish I would have had that. But this shows for a driver driving without any distractions, no cell phone, and you have the full windshield to scan. The one here is using a hands-free device, and it just kind of demonstrates that your driver gets tunnel vision and doesn't scan, even though when they're on a hands-free device. So.
Amy?
Yep.
We need to, with respect to that field of vision, remind everyone of the presence of the blind spots.
Yes.
The mirrors, the pillars. I brought back from France a picture of Kevin Spacey advertising in a new Renault Espace, which has a double A-pillar like a Prius car does. And so I have those kinds of pictures that I've taken and put into a Mylar, and I pass those around to students.
Oh, that's great.
There's also one that I took with the right side of a left A-pillar to the left side of a left rearview mirror on a G6 Pontiac sedan, 16 inches of blind spot. So when they're making a left turn and they're in the intersection waiting for traffic to clear, they need to be watching that left crosswalk that they are going to soon pass through.
Right.
But I'll bring those visuals the next meeting so people can
That's
see.
great, yeah, it's good to have those, yes, I talked about it, but yeah, it's good to have those visuals. Then I always show kind of a shocker, you know, text, this is a girl that was texting, actually her mother just to say one little couple of words, and she's disabled for life, and that's, like the 6-minute video too, so I'm gonna throw that in. Then I go back and I review the laws, and the policies of the video that they watched to kind of really get it in their heads. This I actually added this year, and this was our insurance company. I don't know, does your insurance company send you like different information and things? I always get that, and they actually have some seminars that I've gone to sometimes too. And so I took that off of that information and just kind of reminded everybody. I also put that, added that for when they sign, that also they can't be taking any medication that's going to make them drowsy or anything like that. Okay, and then this is one thing, reminding them too, and I kind of added that, but that, you know, they have to have emergency information for the students that they're transporting, and reminding them. So a lot of our staff, they have little backpacks with that they bring with them. They make sure that they have to have that with them. And then reminding them, don't leave in the van overnight. And I found out some of the sites had a 3-ring binder and they were leaving it in the van overnight. So reminding them you can't do that. And then this is just kind of reminding them to get to know the kids and get information that you need from the IEP or the parents and teachers. And so yeah, I just try to cover as much as I can. Finish going through that. Yeah, and then again, this was a new picture I put this year. You know, some of the information is the same, but you just try to switch things up a little bit so they think they're getting all new information. And then again, just remind them you can't use your cell phone or anything at all. Or the Nextel, we have these Nextels that we communicate, and that they have to have, you know, to not use that, they need to pull over if they really have to communicate. And then we talk about all the emergency equipment. We know it's a Type 3 vehicle. You do not have to have like a window punch or even a seatbelt cutter anymore, but us as a district, to be safe, we do have all of that. And we go through that with them.
Seatbelt cutter, yes, but not a window punch.
Yeah. In the Type 3, you do not have to have the seatbelt cutter, but anymore, no. You used to, but you don't. But we do. We require that. Brian, do it.
Some of us never required, we want them there.
Yeah.
That's one of our legislative initiatives.
Right.
And I'll get that piece on Monday.
Yeah, and then this is a really good video with all the vehicles you've heard in the last couple years, more and more you hear about them, people drowning because they're going into ponds or whatever. I decided to do that, and that's a real good video, and it shows them how to use the window punch and things if they have a rollover or that. So I do that. And that's it, and I just kind of remind them that, you know, you have precious cargo on board and you need to be careful when you drive.
Amy, with the increased number of roundabouts that we're handling, have you thought about putting anything about having insurance drive the roundabout?
That is
GPS and the PSA.
That is a good idea. Actually, when I taught driver's ed, I used to have a really good roundabout video, and I should try to get a hold of that. Yeah, because I know people get really confused about those, so that's a good idea. I'd add that for next year. Yes, Rick?
You know, we had Dr. Fred Matola at Train a Trainer a number of years ago. He's out on the East Coast, and he's in his upper 70s, and he teaches zone management concepts. And I think that's an absolutely beneficial addition to the Smith system and SIPDE. And I have a number of his DVDs and videos that I use that I could bring into these, you know, as a presentation in the future. And while the state just roll left again, I have one more concern. We hear both Amy and Randy on the Type 3 training. We're talking about if there's a problem with a violation in that vehicle. But with school bus drivers, if they have a violation in their privately owned vehicle, they have to report it.
Right, exactly, I'm sorry,
And I really strongly feel that we should be initiating, movement toward requiring that on these drivers.
Yes.
Because they are transporting students. And our primary purpose here is to preserve the safety of the students.
Right, and I don't know if you got to see this, here, this form, it says this on there, and then when they watch those free narrative videos before my training, it talks about that, they have to report within 10 days. I have the form on our website and everything for them, and they know if they get a violation in their own vehicle, they have to fill that out within 10 days, they have to give a copy to their supervisor and one to me. And so they have that. And our insurance company actually is more strict than the state. Like I told you, our insurance company runs the license every year, and the drivers are only allowed to have one moving violation, a minor moving violation, and drive. If they have two, our insurance company won't let them. So that has helped kind of weed out some of the people that might not be driving as careful out there. So yes, I talked to them about that. Okay, yes.
Further questions, we will come back to that. I gotta keep moving for a second time here.
Just something for Amy, real quick, is just, in regard, do you have your drivers sign a paper saying that the insurance company can pull them?
Yes, and, one thing I'll just add real quick, and then, sorry, is I have the, when they first start to drive, they have a form that we made up, it's on our website, that they print out. But then we have that list, and it's very similar to Randy's. And what we do is we make a space for signatures on there, and we send it to all the schools in the spring, and they have all their drivers sign it and give it to us, so during the summer we can run those over the summer and have it ready for the fall. So, yeah.
Thanks, Amy. If you have further questions, we will come back to that at the very end here. I'm gonna move on to Kayla, and then
Hey.
No, very good. So I'm gonna talk about two things. I don't have a fancy PowerPoint. So, I'm gonna talk about what I do in Brainerd with our Type 3. I do it a little bit different than they do. Our drivers, I have 22 vehicles and about 95 drivers, coaches, and teachers. And I work with our AD on setting a date in August for everybody to come in. And we'll either do it during the day or at night. I work with the AD and say, what do you think your people want? Then when they come, they get an envelope like this, and I'll let you guys pass this out. They all get a packet. And I tell them, those packets give a little bit of history on why they have to go through the training. I put copies in there, different statutes. I have, somebody asked about a roundabout. There's some information in there on roundabout, on Type 3s, our dress code. I have in there a copy of the pre-trip form, the behind the wheel form. I also put in there a copy of the paperwork that they need to fill out in the event that they would get a ticket, a violation. And I tell them, take that packet, we're not going to go through it today, take it home, look through it, keep it in a safe place, especially if you end up getting a ticket and you need to notify me, because the paperwork you're going to need is in there. And I've had a few coaches that have called me and said, hey, I know I need to notify you, I got a ticket, and where did you say that paperwork was? I said, it's in your packet, you had your packet, and they do. So it's just a nice way for them to have some information. The other thing I put in there is information on proper usage of a lap shoulder belt, because too many of us wear our lap shoulder belts incorrectly. I put in information on the state patrol, so I give all the state patrol phone numbers, all the inspectors' phone numbers, so they've got some contact information in case they need it. The other thing that I do is a little bit different is I actually have the state patrol come and do the training with them. I used to do it myself, and then I talked to Jim Sonnenfelder, and he came down and started doing the training. He put together, he basically take their PowerPoints off their website, and then he would add some things to it. And for us, or what I found with our coaches and teachers, I thought that they, sat up and listened a little bit more, that they took it a little bit more seriously. The other thing was that it built some relationships, and they were asking some questions that I don't know that I would have been able to answer. I know when we had Kelly up there this last year, it was Kelly and Paul, and it was kind of fun because they were telling us about, there's a, no, okay, I'm from Brainerd, but there's a driving lane down here that the type 3s can now, that they can drive in. What's that called?
HOV lane, carpool lane,
Yeah.
min pass lane.
We don't have one on the Brainerd. So that was, something that I want to know, but they brought it up to our coaches and teachers, and they were all like, okay, that's a cool thing. So then what we do is our tech department actually videotapes the whole thing. So if I get somebody who can't come to the session, now I have this little DVD, and I can say, here you go. So everybody is hearing and seeing the same exact thing. And that has worked really, really great for us. Our session's about 2 hours long. I have our health and safety person comes in, so she talks about bloodborne pathogens, slips, trips, and falls, workers' comp. I get some information from our insurance company, so we'll typically cover that. Then if they are brand new people to the program, I have our local fire extinguisher company come in, and we do a little bit of fire extinguisher training. Now, I always tell them, vehicle starts on fire, let it burn. We have insurance, let it go. But I still think that for them to understand the different extinguishers out there, these are teachers and they're in the classroom. Several of them have actually gone back and gotten fire extinguishers that they've put in their homes or in their garages. So I have found value in that, we do that. And then what they have to do is, if they're brand new, they have to set an appointment with me for the creek trip and the behind the wheel. That way we kind of get that one-on-one. I get to know them, they get to know me. It doesn't feel as threatening. I used to do the creek trips in a big group, and especially the women got a little bit nervous. Every once in a while there'd be a man because they didn't maybe know how to open up. But no disrespect to you guys out there, but every once in a while I run across one. But I found it was just a lot nicer starting to do those pre-trips one-on-one and then the behind the wheel. Makes people feel a little bit more comfortable. If they are doing training or transporting kiddos in booster seats or car seats, then we do a little bit of extra training on that. How many of you know, we're going to talk about car seats next month's training, but how many of you know when you're transporting in a van, if you have a kiddo in a booster seat, so just the seat of it, that they have to be seated in the vehicle where there is a headrest. That's a piece that we go over. We talk about star seats can't be used in the type 3 vehicles. I know I still get calls on that. So we just kind of go through all the different scenarios that they might have. It might be a coach or a teacher. They're typically going to know their kids. And their kids are going to be, they're typically not going to have discipline problems. But if it's somebody who is transporting on a route or some of our kids in between buildings, we talk a little bit more about student discipline and the different things that we're doing. So the hope is, and I hear it here today, that we will have a type 3 class at Train the Trainer this next year. It's been several years since we have had it, and it was a packed room when we had it. And hearing all the questions today, I think it would be a good thing for us to do that again. I know Sergeant Davis and I have talked about it. We've also talked about that there should be, in the model manual, there really should be something in that model manual that gives a little bit more to the type 3. Any questions? Okay, so mine's not quite as fancy. I leave it up to the state patrol to come and fix me video. And then what I do, what's that?
Paul's not here today.
Well, So the other thing that they get in, I don't give this to them right away, we do this piece of it at the end. They get another little packet that I hand out, and it's their timesheet, and I make sure that I make a copy of this, that I have, again, as that documentation. So when the class is over, I have my folder that my DVD goes in, and a copy of the packet, a copy of the timesheet, so I know who was there, what we went over, just so that if there's ever a question, I can say, yep, here's what we did August 11th, 2015. And then I attach the quiz that they need to take, and then I have the eval cert that I go over with everybody. And then in their driver, then of course I divvy it up and put what I need to in their driver files. So, okay?
For drivers coming in from outstate Minnesota, whether they're driving Type 3 vehicles or their own vehicle or a school bus, light rail in Minneapolis is going to be something that they're going to experience. And with the stadium opening in 16, I'm thinking of buses that are going to be leaving that area and moving toward 94, I-94 going north. Something as simple as a crossover. We have a crossover at the Nicollet Mall. If you're westbound on 5th Street, you can cross diagonally across tracks. It's marked by a regulatory sign and a diagonal arrow. And to get to Hennepin, to go out on 3rd Street. So these are thoughts that I have that need to be brought together, and some other thoughts about the trains and the lights with the advent of the green line and people getting, pedestrians getting hit, vehicles being hit. It's a whole area that I feel a need to get my arms around and move forward with, to help you.
And I know you've talked about it a few times, but that's great. The other thing that I was going to talk about today, I was going to touch on special ed, but before I do that, we talked earlier, it was brought up about seatbelts in school buses. How many people are going to, is anybody going to the TCB conference next week in St. Cloud? In high school. Okay. Charlie Vitz from IMMI is going to be there, and he's doing a presentation, I think it's on Thursday, on compartmentalization in school buses. I don't know if anybody was aware of that or not. I know there's going to be all the car seat, or several of the car seat manufacturers are going to be there at that conference, but I'm anxious to hear Charlie. I don't know if it's the same presentation that he gave out in Reno. Did you see that presentation in Reno?
Yes.
So if it's the same one, they're talking, they hit it really hard about the car, about so that will be at the TCB conference, which is TCB stands for Sports Neuro Death. So, okay. Special ed. How is special ed going for everybody? Okay? Yeah? No?
It's going great, Kayla.
All right, that's what I like to hear.
Special ed's
awesome. Special ed is, at least in our area, it continues to grow. And we spent 2 days training with all of our contractors drivers and all of our school district bus assistants. In August, I bring everybody together for 2 days, part of our contract. Well, our contractors drivers usually spend a day with us, but we spend 2 days together, and we go through car seats, and we go through wheelchair tie-downs, and I bring in school nurses. They talk about EpiPens. Are you guys seeing a spike in EpiPens? Yeah? Our school nurse has done an amazing job of coming in and working with the drivers and the bus assistants on training them on the EpiPen usage. So if you haven't done so yet with your drivers on EpiPen training, whether it's regular bus or sped bus, tap into your school nurses. I also believe that the statute is, that the school nurses have to be the ones to do the training. I had a little bit of resistance from our school nurses at first, but it's gone really well. And then I had, the Epilepsy Foundation come in, and they did an hour-long training with all of our drivers on epilepsy, on seizures. That training is a free training. Have any of you had them come in to do training for you before? What did you guys think?
It was fabulous.
It was good, yep, very
Good? And it's free. I mean, what's better than that? And they're there to answer any questions. So I'm hoping to get a representative to come and do a training for us, for this group this year. I think it's been 2 years since they've been with us. But it was great. And they made the drivers and the bus assistants feel so good. They were so relaxed. So they were able to ask questions, and no question was a dumb question.
Who do you contact on that, the epilepsy piece? If you want to get them to
I will get the information to these guys so that they can put it out on the website. There's regional people, so it depends what region that you're in. How many people use the cameras on their buses for training drivers? Okay, I do in our school district. Started doing it a couple of years ago when we were having an issue on a bus with a kiddo. And what I did was I brought in our autism specialist, and she looked at the video with me. So it was a couple of her kiddos that we were having some issues with. And what we ended up doing then is we brought in the driver and the assistant and the autism specialist and myself. We all sat down together. We looked at the video, and we worked with the driver and we worked with the assistant on giving them the training that they needed to work with the kiddos on their bus. That has made a huge impact, I think, in our school district. The drivers and assistants will come in now and ask me, can you pull that video, take a look at it, and tell me, is there something that I could have done differently? Tell me, what can I do with the kiddos on the bus? I highly recommend if you have video camera systems on your buses to use that video. Tap into your special ed directors, autism specialists, and have them look at that video with you, and then bring those people in and train them. I always say that I don't like to blame a driver or a bus assistant for doing something wrong if we haven't properly trained them. And I gotta be honest, I think that we don't give our drivers and bus assistants the training and support that they need. I think I'd love to see unlimited funds out there so that we could give them the training and send them to the training and monthly meetings like we do our teachers or even ourselves. So use that video in any way that you can to train those drivers, even to train your teachers and your case managers, so that if you're having an issue on a bus, you can pull them in and say, take a look at this with me. This is why we need an assistant on the bus. This is why they really need to be in a safety vest. It's been huge for us. So nobody's done anything like that? So do you think we'd go back and do something like that? Yeah? You guys are pretty quiet.
We've used it before now.
You have used it that way?
We have used it for training and remedial training and post follow-up for issues all the time.
And, obviously because of confidential data, confidential student information, I would never show bus video to a big group. I just do it with that driver and that assistant. And they've been appreciative of it, staff's been appreciative of it, and as well as the parents.
Do you require parental permission before you use that video?
Nope, because the person that's looking at that video is going to be the case manager or the driver. So I would not show, if that I have driver A and driver B. I would not show driver B's video to driver A.
Right.
So then I don't have to. Any other questions? All right, so next month, we will have, I'll go get a little bit more into car seats and boosters, star seats, and integrated seats, safety vests. We're using a lot more safety vests, so we'll talk about that next month. And then I did talk to, how many of you know Ben? Yeah, so Ben is actually going to be a keynote speaker at the special ed conference in March. And I talked to Ben last night, and he's going to come and present to our group in January. No, December. When are we down in Randolph? December? December. So, Ben, if you have not heard Ben speak before, Ben will be coming to talk to our group, tell us a little bit, share with us what it was like for him growing up with a disability, what it was like as a child, and what it's like even as an adult. He's done a really great job. He loves going out and telling his story, so he will be joining us for that. Right? Yep.
So you want to talk about the Winter Expo while I set up?
Okay.
Anything else from the way that you have?
That'd be great. It's January 15th and 16th. This year it will all be at the Crown Plaza in St. Paul. Nothing will be at the River Center because they were double booked this year. But we will still be having a trade show in the ballroom. There'll be no buses, obviously, inside this year. Topics that we have retired Missouri state trooper that has a grant to go around and talk about the 2013 kidnapping and killing of the Alabama driver. So he talks about what lessons were learned in that incident and how you can train your drivers to prevent that kind of thing from happening. We're going to have a bus body manufacturers panel. We've been working with some of the manufacturers to talk about the corrosion and brake issues that we've been seeing and how they plan to address them. And the other thing that we are planning is we've been talking a lot about the school bus driver shortage and how you can have a full staff of drivers at one location and then 10 minutes down the road they have problems, and about how your driver's room culture and the image of your company just kind of feeds that, and how you can correct that ship if you're having culture issues in your driver's room. So, and I don't mean multicultural issues, I mean just bad attitudes and that kind of thing, and how to raise the image of your drivers.
All right. A lot of the Type 3 stuff that we covered, or it's already been covered a little bit. The group knows what a Type 3 is, but earlier this year we sent out a memo right around July about modification of a non-conforming vehicle. And that was kind of pushed by Mobility Works wanting to convert the 12-passenger transit to be able to put a wheelchair position in there and still be able to haul 8 other kids. And we talked with NHTSA and all the different things that it takes to modify a non-conforming vehicle, which it is possible prior to first sale, is what NHTSA is concerned about. The final manufacturer has to certify that it meets all of the multi-passenger vehicle standards. Anything that's been sold after first sale and somebody wants to modify a 12-passenger van, for instance, then it's up to the state to kind of regulate that. And that's where the state says any van that's altered must have been originally designed to conform with passenger vehicle safety standards. And that's where Ford came in and said, our transit, we built it with those passenger safety standards in mind so we can use that. So talking to Mobility Works, like, okay, that's fine.
And then they find out, well, they want to use it for school bus. Well, now mobility works like, well, they can't do it for school bus. Then why are you pushing the issue with this? The reason they couldn't do it for school bus, well, they could, but it kind of defeats the purpose of using that 12-passenger transit, because when you add that wheelchair position in there, this is the FMVSS wording here. If it's being used for school transportation, which our type 3 is, that wheelchair position now counts as 4 seats. Doesn't matter if it's actually a school bus or a multi-passenger vehicle, it's used for student transportation. You put a wheelchair position in that type 3, that counts as 4 seats. So now you can only have 6 other designated seating positions. So it really doesn't do you any good to buy that 12-passenger, unless you want the extra storage, but you cannot have those extra seats. They said you could buy, the flip-down seats, so you could have, 10 seats, and if you have a wheelchair position, flip them up so they can't physically be used when the wheelchair's in, so that's an option. We just wanted to add some clarification on that when we were talking about type 3s. Does that make sense, or they confuse everybody? No? That makes sense?
I was not pushing.
We already talked about the annual requirement training. That was a good discussion. And every year, the last 3 years, or 4 years anyway, the discussions come up at the Capitol about why are we requiring teachers to go through type 3 training. They know how student management, they're just driving the minivan that they probably already drive for home use. And it all kind of speared from the 2008 crash in Forest Lake, where Amanda Berglund was killed, where there was no training requirements, driver documentation checks, or anything like that. And I get that it can be a challenge to get the teachers and coaches in through the training in a timely manner, time consuming. The one discussion that always comes up when it's being discussed at the Capitol is, well, who's paying for it? Now you're going to, how many hours does this take? It's like, well, honestly, probably an hour and a half to 2 hours, the initial training. Who's paying for it? Well, it comes out of the school district. They're always trying to tweak a little bit so the teachers can get out of it, and for coaches and volunteers, they'll use volunteers, and it's just. So I think the discussion today was great to see how different people do it and what options you have for, Kayla gets everybody in at the one time, but throughout the year you got a new coach that comes in, you need to get them trained, and what are your options for that and how you guys do it. I think the discussion is good to have. I don't know what the group's thoughts are. I'm blessing those thoughts when it comes up. My stance has been, went in there because of no regulation previously. We don't want to necessarily lessen requirements, and then they come up with where are the statistics that say teachers they forget everything from year to year and need to be retrained on driving things. The one guy that likes to ask the questions to the pilot, doesn't know who that is. He's the right seat pilot. He doesn't have to have training every 2 years, and he's a left seat pilot. He needs it every 6 months or something like that. I don't know how that goes with school buses, but essentially we think it's good to cover the training every year just to make sure if there are updates and changes in laws and statutes occasionally that we want to make sure everything's covered on. So it's just one thing that comes up, and it's nice to have the discussion and see what you're doing to kind of work through some of these challenges. Covered the pre-trip requirements. Type 3s are under the same requirements as a big school bus. Somebody's got to do the pre-trip. It needs to be carried in there. Amy covered the first aid equipment requirements. For the most part, your disqualifications are the same as your school bus endorsement disqualifications. Any of the permanent disqualifiers, any DWI within the previous 5 years, and then fourth moving violation within the last 3 years. Would cancel your type 3 driver from being able to drive. The difference is there is no waiver process for a type 3 driver. Once they're disqualified, they're disqualified. If the DWI is over 5 years old, now they're back eligible. They don't have to. They'd be okay because that time has lapsed. When that ticket, that's the one that triggered it. So once you get past the 3-year time frame, you become having more tickets, and then they're eligible to drive again until they get another ticket for a moving violation. Or from 1 year from the last conviction. That's what you triggered from. talks about having to notify the employer if they get a moving violation or a DWI. Those forms are on our website, the links for the type 3 driver notification to the employer about the moving violation. They have 10 days, correct, Elaine, in type 3s? To notify you after a conviction. So if they go to court, it's 10 days from the day they're found guilty, or if they just pay the ticket, 10 days from that point to notify you when you come to the violation. And that's on the driver, so we come in and do driver checks and we see a driver not notify you when we check a record. That's not on you, that's on the driver. So we just want to make sure that you're aware of it as well, so you can let them know. And this is the form that we have for notifying of the conviction. And just a reminder, make sure you always view in the back of your driver's license when you go in to renew to make sure that everything you thought was supposed to be on there is on there. You get any updates or changes, LASIK, make sure those corrections are all noted. Again, if you're hired solely to drive, you need to have the medical card from a certified examiner, and it needs to be actually carried on you because there's no way for us to check on your record unless they're a CDL driver that they're medically qualified. So if they're just a Class D driver hired solely to drive, they need to carry their medical card. Zero tolerance comes into effect for type 3, just like a large school bus. Bus is a bus, so no alcohol use. Goes up to gross misdemeanor if kids are on the bus. And you talked about the cell phone prohibition, texting. And the seat belts, there's the option, or there's the 169447 where it talks about all students must be buckled unless the parents opt out of that. You can't do that from a type 3 vehicle. The only way a child could get out if having to be restrained in a type 3 is actually get him a doctor's note. The reason for that, school bus is designed with compartmentalization aspect, so that's part of the restraint system already incorporated. Your type 3s don't have that, so that's why you would have to have a doctor's note for. You can just have the parents say, my kid doesn't like to be confined, so when he's driving with type 3, he's not going to be restrained. That doesn't work. It needs to come from a doctor. And it's just, so booster seat law, car seat law, under 8 and under 4'9", need to be restrained, properly restrained according to manufacturer recommendations. That includes making sure the age of your seat, the devices themselves aren't expired. The type 3 falls under the same post-crash requirements as your large bus. That's one thing that law enforcement often is going to miss because they don't realize it when they come to it. This is a school bus. It just looks like a van. It just looks like a Suburban. Just point out that this is a school bus. I think it requires an inspection. Just contact the state patrol for us. They argue. Don't argue with them. Just call us directly. This is what Kayla was talking about, Paul mentioned. We got the HOV lane here in the metro. Even if it's empty, it is considered a bus by statute, so you are, and the sign says all buses, motorcycles, carpools are able to use that lane, so you don't need an in-pass reader or anything like that. When you get pulled over for it, there's going to be troopers out there that don't realize that you're a bus. Make sure you tell them this is a school bus. Here's my sticker that says it's a school bus. Call Brian. And if they get a ticket, and they've had it, you know what, we've dealt with it on the back end. They get talk to the prosecuting attorney, you get whatever, they get it taken care of. So there's that. No, just right through any violation in a type 3 school, not just because you're late. Chad.
Talk about authorized shoulder use up here for buses.
That does not cover type 3 or school buses. That's for your basically transit, or there is a carrier exception to that. We're basically in agreement with transit, correct?
Correct.
To use a shoulder, where it says buses authorized shoulder use, not for school buses or type 3 buses. I think what else I've had some questions lately on type 3s.
You want to mention the out of state, if you've got an out of state bus?
Sure. If you got a driver that's out of state, so you're in the border areas, or you got a driver that just wants to drive a ways to get to you, there was Wisconsin driver's license, Iowa driver's license, whatever it is, you need to verify annually that they have a current driver's license. Or you can't use MinDriveInfo.org because they don't have a Minnesota record. So in order to get that, you would have to have the driver personally go to their local police or sheriff's office and request a certified copy or a copy of the driving record, and make sure it's dated so you know when they ran it, and bring that to you, and get that, because you won't be able to call and get it, so you'd have to send them to get it personally to get it to you that way. Other questions on Type 3 laws and regulations?
I have a
Frustrating?
question in general.
Yeah.
At our, training, I had a coach ask me, if it's okay if he takes a picture of his license, driver's license front and back, if an officer would accept that, he didn't have a hard copy with him.
We want to accept it as actually a form of carrying their driver's license. We would certainly probably use it to get the information off of it, to run it, and verify and confirm the computer who it is. They could get a citation for not having their driver's license on them. Discretion comes into play in common sense there, and we're able to identify them. Personally, I wouldn't recommend it. I won't speak for everybody. I'm not saying they can't. They certainly could.
I think you get an airplane with that.
Other comments or questions for me, or?
Answer those questions they gave you.
All right. So the first one was on inspections and with the close inspections of rotors. I think the memo pretty much explained what we're seeing. Corrosion on the rotor. Our concern is where the rotor starts to corrode to the fact where the brake pad itself is riding over rust. Now, if it's just starting, and I know everybody wants a percentage, what's the limit? You know, there's discretion. There's going to be a little bit of variance, unfortunately. There's human aspect and human element when it comes to having different inspectors around the state. We've addressed it internally as far as what we wanted, gave them the same memo and talked to them about it before we started coming out, and gave it to you on the front end that this is what we're seeing. And even, as I've explained to some, even on the commercial vehicle side of things, the truck side of things, the commercial vehicle safety lines recommendation or out of service requirements, it talks about any severely rusted rotor, and it falls under the 20% criteria. So if 20% of your brakes have this defect, it's considered out of service. Well, on the school bus, you get 1 brake out of 4, you're at 25%, so you're over the 20% criteria. So when the brake pad is riding over that rust, it's not getting that smooth full contact, potentially diminishing the design or the maximum braking efficiency that the vehicle is designed to have. That's where our concern comes from. Is there more you want me to discuss on that? Or?
I got chastised yesterday for not making comment about the good brake rotors that Carrier had.
I seen a lot of nice brake rotors. And when I go to carriers, and I don't go to a lot of them like the other guys do, but I do go around, and when I do, I make a point because there's usually a pile of rotors laying on the ground there. I look at them, I'm like, why was this one taken off? And it's like, well, the other side was bad, so we do 2 at once. Makes sense. Makes complete sense, and that's the recommended procedure. But if there's one where they said this one was we considered bad, I'll look at it and give them my honest assessment. Like, this one, if I saw it on there, and we're already doing a brake job, and you got it pulled apart, and you want to do it, fine. But if it's on at an inspection, I see it, it might be to the point where I'm like, keep an eye on this one, something's causing it, but at this point, I want to put it on service. And so, and I hope that we're able to have those discussions. And I got an email last week when I was off, and I actually responded to it. Shame on me. Somebody sent me a picture, and what's your thought on this one? So I told them, like, again, this one, it's just, whatever's starting to cause the issues there, but I would say keep an eye on this one and not mark it. If not, it's either out of service or it's not a violation. There's no in between. So, and that was one of the questions that there's varying points on. There was a question on using 8-way stops and positioning the bus in the bike lane. It's still not permitted. No, you cannot. You have to stop in the lane of traffic. And that was one of the things in the comments on the survey we did. Some people were saying, We don't stop on the right turn lane, we stop in the through lane next to the right turn lane. So the kids would have to cross that right turn lane. Again, that is not acceptable. Putting the kids more at risk for somebody coming along that right side of the bus. If you're stopping before the turn lane, okay, that's fine. But if you're stopping next to the turn lane, then there's an adjacent lane, absolutely not. So keep the bus positioned in the lane. Some of them talked about, well, we straddle or get onto the shoulder, or you stop in both the turn lane and the through lane. Again, you gotta stay in the designated lane of traffic you're required to do. You don't want to cheat to the edge of it, that's fine, but stay in your lane, don't cross the lines. And when a driver from a district that only uses four-ways for student stops, and the district has a policy that it's all eight-way stops only, are they required to use the eight-way system? Yes. They need to do it as designated. And I got this question, we were at Coleman's had an open house 2 weeks ago, and they're not here today, so this isn't just a one-place issue, it's a couple places. They had a driver that just refuses to use the eight-ways because they feel it's safe. You designate it as an eight-way stop, it has to be an eight-way stop. The only way to get out of an eight-way stop is if you get permission from the school district and you're directed to do so in writing, not do an eight-way stop. So, the driver would clearly be in violation there. It needs to be addressed internally. So not getting corrected, let us know, and we'll get somebody out there when we can. It's not always immediately, but clearly this is a safety concern. We can put a priority on it and get out there as best we could, as quick as we could, to address it, and see how they do it, and then figure out what the designated fee is, and issue a citation. There wouldn't be any warnings for that. Thank you for the question.
I think Deb had one question.
Brian answered it.
Sorry.
That's fine, that's fine.
I just wanted to bring up, I've had 3 cases where a person has gotten a stop arm violation and is fighting it to court. And it's 18 months later that my driver is getting called in to testify. If you have a stop arm violation, have your driver come into your office, literally have them write down everything that happened that day. My driver got asked, what did he have for breakfast? He said, well, I can't remember, and the lawyer just pounced on him, well, if you can't remember that, you know, so just really have them write down the key details, down to maybe little Johnny was acting up that day on the bus, just so they can refresh their memory when it comes time to question.
And then the defense attorneys are evil. I mean, just any response, you know, not that you're going to get that question again, you know what, having breakfast every day is an unusual occurrence. Somebody going through my stop arm is something significant and drastic that I remember out of the ordinary. Hopefully it's out of the ordinary, according to the stop arm survey, it's not. But yeah, so I mean, a way to answer it, hopefully the prosecutor helped address that too.
In regard to the stop arm violations, what we often do is we actually record it immediately on the tape. So we have video cameras in the bus. And so it's fresh, I mean, contemporary to that time. And so how can you argue with something at that time? I mean, 18 months later, you're obviously going to, you know, forget a few things, but if it's on the tape, how can you argue against that?
Yep. Yesterday, I did send an email out just saying, you know, again, it is National School Bus Safety Week, so whatever you're doing for your drivers, let me know. There's different things. I know Northfield had donuts for their drivers at breakfast on Monday. They had little goodie bags for them today, and on Friday the school's actually providing breakfast at the school. And it's neat to see that, and I'm sure that the PIO, Public Information Officer, to see if she would kind of tweet or post that. You got pictures of doing things like that, and whatever we can do to help promote School Bus Safety Week, because school buses, we got a great track record in Minnesota for the safety of school buses, and we keep improving that. And we want to work with you for that and to do that. So.
I'm going to take 3 questions. The other deal is you have a technical school bus that actually still have the magnet and vehicle stop rows road crossing. No stop. Does that change it at all?
No. Type 3s are not required to stop at railroad crossing. We recommend they don't. Because people aren't used to it and they're going to get hurt.
It's not illegal to have it, something like that.
No, it's not illegal to have it or to do it. It's just, it's not required. So, yeah.
Okay, with that, we will
follow-ups with notes as well as the agenda and a recording of today's presentation on our website. You can reach that at mnscsc.weebly.com. And otherwise, can I get a motion to adjourn? So moved.
Can I get a second?
All right.
Don't forget to wish Carolyn farewell, get some cake, we've got lots of it here.